Did you know that every word you speak matters? Are your conversations making a difference? With a passion for words and a heart for conversation, Teresa Velardi is a self-professed word nerd, best-selling author, BizCat 360 columnist, and publisher. Children's books as well as fiction and nonfiction books are welcomed at We Be Books Publishing and Book Endeavors, the imprints of her company, Authentic Endeavors Publishing. Whether written or spoken, Teresa strives to encourage and inspire meaningful conversations that make a difference. Here's the host of Conversations That Make a Difference, Teresa Velardi.
Hey everyone, and welcome to another edition of Conversations That Make a Difference. I am Teresa Velardi, and you are listening to Dream Vision 7 Radio Network. So today, I have a couple of beautiful guests with me who are authors of children's books. But before we start, I always like to start with a prayer. So I start with a universal prayer called the Serenity Prayer, which is, in my mind, much needed at this time. So let's just together pray. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. I also want to say that today we are grateful to be fabulous, blessed, and highly favored while living in our greatness, using our God-given gifts and talents with passion and purpose. We are making a difference in the lives of others, and all of God's great universe is conspiring in our favor. It is with great gratitude that we all say amen. So let me introduce to you our guests for today. We're going to start off with Sarah Jibrin, who is the author of Kip the Copter and the Rushing River Adventure. Try and say that 3 times fast. Okay. Sarah's excited to share this first of her children's books, which was birthed while inventing a bedtime story for her children. It's important to Sarah that we take advantage of the opportunities we have with children to empower them to see their value and live with integrity. She hopes to contribute to your child's growth through this story and others to come. Sarah loves spending time with her husband and her children where they live in New England. She believes it's never too late to be like Kip the Copter and discover the unique qualities that enable us to strengthen those around us while using our talents. So that's Sarah, I'll get right with you. And let me introduce also the other beautiful face here, Melanie Francis. She wrote a book called Poop Shoes. And from an early age, she loved to draw. She earned admittance to New York City's prestigious High School of Art and Design. And while in college, Melanie discovered that she enjoyed writing stories as much as she liked drawing and painting. She has combined her love of art with her love of writing to create Poop Shoes. And Miss Francis is currently working on her next children's book, Miss Abby Crabby, and we're going to learn all about those two in just a little bit. But first, we're going to go to Sarah with Kip the Copter. And this is Kip. Look at that face. Isn't he adorable? He is adorable. And for these books, all these books, you can find the links in the YouTube chat where you can just click on and go to Amazon and buy your copy. So Sarah, what I know you were inventing a child's story for your children at bedtime, but what inspired you to get started with children's books? Was it the storytelling at bedtime, or is there some part of you that is just an author at heart?
So I think it really was that experience with my kids. This was back in 2016, so we're talking 5 years ago. I just randomly talked to them about this bedtime story, and it came to me as I was just, it just kind of came out as I was going. And when I heard it, I was like, oh, this is like a really good story. Like, I think I need to at least record it, Yeah. And part of my delay was just knowing how to navigate children's books and just illustrations. Illustrations felt very daunting to me and everything. So it was kind of on the back burner. I wrote it out, just kind of brain dumped it. And then I was just kind of always keeping my eyes open for, illustrators or just publishers, or like, what do you do? What do you do from here? And then, within, I think 2020, late 2020, early 2021, I got connected to Al John, who's the illustrator. And I didn't even talk to anybody else, because as I'm talking to him, he's drawing the helicopter, this Kip that you see, like he's hearing me talk to him about the story, and he just starts drawing it. And I'm like, oh my, that looks like Kip. That looks like the person I'm trying to, portray here in this story. And I just feel like he nailed it. And it was a really sweet, like kind of just gesture that he did, was to just kind of draw it out as we were talking and conversing. And then from there, he connected me to you, and it all became possible, so.
Yes, it all became possible, indeed. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about Kip and the story that you wrote. I love this story. When I titled this show, I said it was children's books that build confidence. And I think that both of these stories that we're going to talk about today are confidence builders for children today. So tell us a little bit about Kip and how he fits into that title.
So Kip, I think his character in general is very friendly, innocent, slightly naive. Like he just really genuinely wants to help. And I kind of introduce it by saying he's new to town. So maybe he's like a new machine, a new vehicle. And so he's still kind of in that discovery mode of like what he has to offer. And so he sees someone who needs help, and he thinks, well, I can ask this person and this person. He looks all around to see who can help. But at the end of the day, he realizes that he's the one to kind of save the day. I don't know if that's okay to tell too much of the story, but it's just very nice to see like how, you can look all around you. And I think we can all relate, where we kind of look to others to kind of, bring the solution or, help and do something, but we don't really know what's in our own hands, and like how we can actually bring the answers ourselves as well, with people too. It's not like only us, but yeah.
Right. So I think that you're absolutely right. And I think that we don't necessarily look to ourselves because maybe we don't have the confidence that we need in order to be able to do the job, so to speak. And I don't think you gave away too much of the story, because there's a lot of steps along the way before he makes the discovery of his own, his own talents. And when I start this out and I talk about our talents, I think that this book literally speaks to that conversation about using your gifts and talents to make a difference in the lives of others. And that's exactly what Kip does. But in the meanwhile, he has a couple of other things that happen along the way. So I'm curious, did you develop Kip from someone who was in your life? Is Kip somebody that was created through an experience that you had, maybe as a child, or as you made the story up for these children? Was there anyone that came to mind, somebody who touched your life, who encouraged you to step into your gifts? And I know you have many.
Well, I can't say that I really tied him to someone. I think I was very looking at him as like kind of his functionality, more like as a helicopter versus like the functionality as some of the other characters in the story. Mm-hmm. But I think we all relate to it in some level. You know what I mean? Like I'm a twin, and like number one thing that happens your whole life is like everyone compares you, but it's just so fascinating that like you're twins, but you're two different people. You have your two different gifts. There's two different things about you that contribute, to everybody around you. So I think like we all relate to that concept of, being unique, so.
Exactly. I don't think I knew that you were twins until just this moment.
Really? Yeah.
Are you an identical twin?
We're fraternal.
You're fraternal.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, that's interesting. I think you find out something new every day.
Yeah, you do.
Something new every day. I'm going to switch over to Melanie for a minute here, because her story, Poop Shoes. She is the author and the illustrator of Poop Shoes. I will show you this. And I love how her story unfolds. And I'm going to let you tell a little bit about it, Melanie, and let us know a little bit about Katie. Is it Katie?
Yep.
who's the main character. Yes, Katie's the main character. So let's have a little bit of, is Katie somebody that was in your life? Is Katie you as a child? And tell a little bit about the story.
Katie is actually, when you read the book, she's getting ready. She has it's a big school picture day. And so she's thrilled because she's wearing her favorite dress and her absolute favorite party shoes. And my niece, Katie, when she was a little girl, that's what she did. And she actually named her, she wore the same dress that I've drawn in the book. And she called it my painting picture. She was really thrilled with it. That's what she wanted to do. So that I have always kept that. And when I wrote this, it was Katie that I had in mind, being the little girl. And it worked out perfectly. She's a grown woman now, but this is what it was. And
That's
it's
awesome.
one of those universal stories that happens to everybody. So, and she learns through it. And as you said too, she changes throughout the story. And that's the purpose of it, to see about how you can change. You don't have to throw things out. Things are good, things like that, a little, without giving too much away.
Yeah. And so and the process that she goes through is a confidence builder in her life, so, and that things are not necessarily as they look. They can be changed for different, and you can come out feeling good about yourself and feeling good about what decisions you've made, right?
It's a whole learning process for her.
Yes.
And one of the things that I really wanted to portray in there too is that, number one, you learn through these type of things, and you can ask for help. Of course, it's a very helpful person that helps Katie to come to this realization.
Exactly. And I'm going to go back to you, Sarah. But I'm sorry, Kip looks for help along the way, right?
Yep.
So, and sometimes we have to, and then I'm going to let you talk about that. He looks for help along the way. He's new in town. And tell us how you came up with the name of the town.
So I tried to be purposeful with a lot of the names, like in terms of their meanings and everything. And so my husband helped me brainstorm different, concepts and everything. And so he found the word tello, which is a Greek word for like final and complete. And I felt like it's not like Kip, for instance, is like at his final place, but he's on the journey to that place of like feeling complete and satisfaction. Because whenever you have these learning experiences in life, like you kind of are one more step closer to, that inner like peace or that feeling of like accomplishment and that you've kind of arrived in a sense, So, so that's kind of where the name came from. My husband actually found it, and we played with a lot of versions of that word tello and landed on Tello Town. But yeah, that's kind of the concept where it's kind of like the journey to the destination.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. And so your website that you have is called
tellotownadventures.com.
And Sarah built this website herself. This is one multi-talented woman, let me tell you. She has, you want to talk about your children, how old they are?
Yeah, I have 3 kids, 8-year-old girl, 7-year-old boy, 4-year-old girl, and another girl on the way. So 4.
Awesome.
3.5.
Yeah. And so she's got a lot of things that are going on in her life, and keeps busy with her children and with her church and whatnot. And so this adventure that Kip goes on, and these Tello Town adventures that are coming, I'm looking forward to what's next. I know that you've got your hands full, and it's going to be a little while before the second one gets done, but talk a little bit about what people can find on your website.
So the website is kind of broken up into different pages where you can kind of get to know the characters of the book, just fun character traits and, favorites of theirs. And then also you can download activity sheets. So we have activity sheets at the end of the book, that people can color. But if you have multiple kids or they want to do it again, you can go to the website and download it. And there's also activity sheets on the website that aren't in the book. And then it gives you a little bit of information about me and just the background of Tello Town and all of that. So,
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. So Kip goes through some I think all of the characters go through some change and have some different things that they can own their skills. They can be confident in what they can and can't do, and that in turn makes the main character Kip realize his own things that he can do. Was that intentional, or as I hear you talk about how the fact that you made the story up while you talk to your children, I'm like, I'm an artist, I'm a writer, but I don't think I ever made up a story that for my son, who's now 35 years old, but I don't think I can remember ever like making a story up out of my head. I always relied on somebody else's books. So I have great respect for both of you. I write other stuff. I haven't written children's books yet, keyword. So all of the characters, did you, I know that you live in New England, and which is a water town, and that there is water all around. So did you develop some of the characters based on what you see from day to day and what people will experience day to day?
Well, so I knew that Kip was the hero and he's a helicopter. So I had to find other vehicles. So that kind of, you would think that could solve the problem, but can't because of the way they're built and just kind of the mechanics of them. Mm-hmm. So I think after I kind of told the kids the story, I wrote it down, but then I would try to think it through, like, okay, what would Kip's process be in terms of like, if the person is stranded by the river, who would you think should help? Like a boat, right? Like you would think a boat could help, you know what I mean? And then from there, you kind of like just kind of build, okay, if a boat can't help in the mountains, then, construction vehicles can help, like, so it's kind of like an add-on to like, okay, let me solve this problem with this one, but then this one doesn't solve that problem, So it's just kind of trying to think through that like logical thinking that you might have to kind of find a solution.
Yeah, and I love the way that you said that, because I think that engaging children in the conversation of, do you think this one can solve the problem? Do you think this one can solve the problem? It makes them think about what skill sets people need in order to be able to solve certain problems. Yes?
Yes, and being okay with trial and error. Like sometimes we want to know the answer right away, but like sometimes you need to fail and make mistakes or guess the wrong thing in order to build up to the right answer, So, yeah.
John Maxwell would call that failing forward. Yes.
Oh, that's a good way. Yeah.
Exactly. So Melanie, I'm going to go back to you with poop shoes. So Katie gets pretty upset with what happens with her shoes. How do you think she can be an example to children to look for a solution to a problem?
I think because number one, she has to accept her anger. She's very angry. When she loses she wants these shoes, she's angry. She tells her mother, I'm never going to use them again. And it's a process for her, because at night when she's alone in her room, she's looking out the window at their shoes and she's feeling a heavy heart about it. But she's, she hasn't come to the conclusion of what can I do yet, until the next day when she gets off the bus. Of course, Georgie P doesn't help her with his taunting. But then when Miss Carolyn calls her over, and she goes and she talks to Miss Carolyn, and Miss Carolyn has a very calming effect on her. And Katie, of course, Miss Carolyn is a neighborhood person that everybody seems to like. She has a beautiful house. She grows her own things. She has beautiful flowers. She makes pies and stuff in the wintertime, and people love the smells coming out of her house. And little, by learning about the environment and learning what to do with things that you discard or other people discard, Katie comes to that realization after a while. She's there with Miss Carolyn. She's working with her. All of a sudden, she gets that smell that she's sniffing, and she's saying, she's looking at her shoes. Did this happen to me again? And it's not. It turns out that Miss Carolyn is working with manure, and she learns all about that. And she kind of gets to the realization her sadness and her anger is turning into acceptance and happiness. Yeah. I can do something now that's going to take that problem that I have and turn it into something good.
Yeah.
And she does that,
Yes.
with the help of a very fine person.
Yes. And I think that Kip does the same thing. He comes to the realization that he can, in fact, have a different outlook on the situation that he faces. And so I love these two stories. They're so endearing. They're so endearing. I love the characters. I mean, I can't get enough of the faces that Kip the Copter has. And I mean, there's one page that shows all the different emotions that Kip has in this book. I mean, if you look at this here, look at this. He's just so cool. And you can see the beautiful thing about the illustrations and and even Melanie, your work as well shows the characters in what you can actually feel what they're feeling. Like this is sad Kip, so because he doesn't have the answer to the problem, he's going to find it one way or another, right?
Right. Very true.
Yeah. So I think, what do you have to say about this and what might possibly be next for you, Sarah?
So I definitely want to keep open to like a new book, a second book, or even a few more books, because I think the way I have it, it's called Telltown Adventures, which is kind of like the parents of like Kip the Copter stories and other stories of the people in this town of Telltown, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of want to bring out different characters in this town and share their stories about, their lessons in life and how they've, overcome hurdles or, learn something great about themselves or help someone or something, so I definitely want to keep an open mind to more creativity and more, stories being told. So
Yeah, and I think you shared with me, you have a brother.
Yes.
Yeah, that you might have a story that brings him into the conversation. Yes.
Yeah. So actually, he's like we snuck him in on like the first page. I'll just show you real quick. Just like it's me and my brother. It's like kind of a foreshadow of, see that little guy right there? It's like so a little foreshadow of me and my brother, that he'd probably be like the star of the next show, because it's not next show, the next book. Because it's funny, he had an experience when he was like maybe 7 and it still impacts me today,
Yeah.
And so it's just kind of sharing that story, kind of like with your niece, like so many years later, it impacted you so much, Melanie, and you have to write about it, and kids are the best teachers.
Aren't they though? Aren't they though?
Yeah.
And I'm sure you're learning lots of lessons as yours grow up, right?
Oh yes, definitely.
And now you have this new one coming along.
Yeah.
And this baby is due when? In
March.
March.
Mid-March.
Oh yes, we talked about this, March 17th.
Yeah.
Same day is my sister, St. Patty's Day birthday. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful that you were able to join us, Sarah. I think that I'm excited to see what you bring to the world next. I know that Kip and maybe some of the characters in this book are, like you said, going to turn up in the next one. And I can't wait to hear the story about that, that you've carried all these years, that impacted you so that it can, the beauty of this, I'm going to go off on a tangent here. The beauty of the fact, like what the both of you said, like you have a story that you want to include your brother, something that you experienced with him. Melanie has the situation with her niece, and her next book is Miss Abby Crabby. It's a bully story, a story about bullying. And I'm sure there's somebody in her life, and there's somebody in everybody's life who has experienced bullying and and has had, it's impacted your life, even if you weren't the one to be bullied, so I know that that we these stories are not necessarily just for us as individuals, they are generational. This stuff happens to everyone, somewhere along the line. Somebody in your life is Kip, somebody in your life is Katie in Poop Shoes, so I can't wait to see what you bring to the table next, Sarah. I'm excited to see what that is, but I do know that you have to go, because what are you doing today?
So I'm the children's director at my church, and I'm doing like a music school for the kids. And tonight we have rehearsals for a recital coming up. So we have all the singers and musicians all coming together to play. in the band, and we have 3 songs we have to work through. So that's coming. We have to be there in 10 minutes. It's right up the street.
I'm gonna have Rachel take us out to commercial.
Sure.
And thank you very much for coming on to Conversations That Make a Difference today. And I hope to see you again back here one day soon. With
Yes,
the next
thank you
book
for having
coming
me. I
out.
appreciate it. Nice to meet you, Melanie.
Same here. Thank you. Good
Thanks
Bye.
so much, Sarah.
What if dreams can diagnose your life? What if we can meet the love of our life in dreams? Join host Kat O'Keefe Canavas, the #1 internationally best-selling author of Dreams That Can Save Your Life, written with Duke University medical doctor Larry Burke. Dreaming Healing is where we'll explore dreams, research, and interpret dreams from you, the caller. Dreaming Healing shows can be heard every Tuesday at 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. Eastern, with live shows on the first and third evenings at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific Time on syndicated Dream Vision 7 radio network. Come live your dreams out loud with Kat.
Are miracles real? Can you move from mayhem to miracles? 30 prominent authors say yes as they share their high fives and down lows of challenges, abuse, addiction, and love. Experience hope, the magic elixir of miracles, through the personal stories of New York Times bestselling authors James Redfield, Dr. Bernie Siegel, Sister Jenna, Reverend Temple Hayes, and many more. If you like bestsellers, Chaos to Clarity, and Crappy to Happy, you'll love crying and laughing through Mayhem to Miracles. Sacred Stories of Transformational Hope, available now on Amazon and in bookstores worldwide.
Omega Institute, offering workshops, retreats, and online learning dedicated to awakening the best in the human spirit. For over 40 years, Omega has seen more than 1 million people come through its doors to grow, learn, and find a greater sense of purpose. With over 350 workshops to choose from, Omega offers something for everyone. Located in Rhinebeck, New York, just 90 miles north of New York City, Omega's natural environment and quiet pace allow for extraordinary experiences to unfold. Learn more at eomega.org or call 877-944-2002. Again, 877-944-2002.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.
Every time they do that, every time that comes to the end of the break and they say that, breathe, relax, let life flow. I get this overwhelming sense of peace that comes over me. And I say it all the time, and Deborah Bouvet is probably laughing at me. Deborah's the owner of the network. And I say it just about once at every show. So I just appreciate that so much. So anyway, we're going to go back to talking with Melanie Francis about her book, Poop Shoes, and the books that she has coming forward. And I want to go back to this story about Katie and her shoes. Now, obviously, she steps in poop, right?
Yes, she does. And it's a metaphor for life, but what I really, really liked about this story too, and I like the whole thing, is it is a learning experience, and it teaches such invaluable lessons. She has to come to the point in her little life where something that she has really liked and really loved, there's going to be a transition there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to throw this away. I never want to touch it, but my heart is a little bit broken here. What do I do? And then, like I said, it's the learning process of her accepting that sadness and then being open to finding something new out. What can I do to change this? And a very dear person who I love that illustration of Miss Carolyn, if I could find it.
Yes.
Love her. And
yeah, I'll have it here.
There it is. I named her after my grandmother. So I always say my grandmother could make roses grow in the sand. And that's how Miss Carolyn is. And it's her whole persona. Not only the fact that she does these things that are wonderful and cooks all this stuff and makes all these things, she has a very calming influence on Katie. And for Katie, when she's looking all around the yard and discovering all these new wonderful things that she doesn't completely understand yet, and then she smells the manure and stuff like that, Miss Carolyn does not say, don't do this, or you can't do that. And Katie kind of, when she looks at her, Miss Carolyn just kind of smiles and laughs and says, Katie, it's poop. You know, it's just animals. And, you know, little kids love stuff like that. If you say poop, she's, oh, you know, they start laughing and stuff like that. And I was saying before, you know, you really can't hit a kid over the head. You have to be caring for the environment. You have to do this. This is a process. So if this child, you say you're reading it to a kindergarten class for Earth Day, and then the following year, they read it again in first grade, and then it goes to second, and then it goes to third. And there's always a child in the class that's going to say, well, what is mulching? What is it? And that's why we have this glossary back here in terms that children can understand, you know, in language that they can understand. And then by the third grade, fourth grade, they're saying, oh, I know what mulching is. I know what this is all about, you know, and it really, it's a whole learning process. And that's exactly how Katie learned, from falling down, feeling down. What am I going to do? To lifting herself up with the help of somebody else. And then bringing that around. You know.
How old would you say Katie is in this story?
In this story, I would say that Katie is probably about 6-7 years old.
Yeah. And I would be disappointed if I stepped in poop with my favorite shoes too. Absolutely. I feel, as I always say, we've all experienced this at one time or another, you know. Yes.
That feeling, you know.
Exactly. So I want to say something else about Miss Caroline. Yes. She lives in this house, and this house tells me Miss Carolyn is a free spirit. She loves color. She loves to garden. She has this something in her spirit comes through in the house that she lives in. And I think if we surround ourselves with the things we love, they bring out the best in us. Wouldn't you say that?
Yes, absolutely. And she is a peaceful soul. Miss Carolyn. She lives within this environment. Everybody loves, as you see that, you know, the smells coming out of her house. She does everything that she does, whether it's planting Montauk daisies, whether it's growing fruit, whether it's baking pies. She does that with great love, you know. So she's everything, like you said, that shows in her home. That shows in her persona. That is what Katie is drawn to. Right. She has these problems. She is that wonderful persona that she has, that giving, caring person. And that's something that all children will relate to, you know.
Exactly. And so she has a little potting shed outside her house. And when I think about that potting shed, I think of myself as a little girl. The house that we lived in, my parents were waiting for our home to be built. There was a little potting shed in there, and there was nothing really in it. The shelves were bare, but I could picture myself in there. You know, I would go in there and I could picture myself, you know, doing stuff, making stuff in there. I wasn't sure what the shed was for, but, you know, looking back years later when we were out of there, I was like, what was that little shed for, Mom? And she told me, you know. So I just love when she goes into the shed with Miss Caroline.
I do too. It's one of my favorite things also, because again, as my grandmother, who I based, you know, as Carolyn on, whatever you needed, she had, because she collected everything. These were products of the Depression, of a World War. She would, if you needed a rubber band, she made, you know, she had thousands of rubber bands, buttons, anything that you needed. Let's go to grandma's because she'll know what, you know, what it is. And I did, when I was drawing those, you know, the buttons and the things that she finds. Yeah, I was thinking about her, you know, because this is the kind of things that you need a button. Okay, I got put, you know, what color, all these kind of things that you would save. She did have seeds. She planted things. You know, we had a beautiful Rosa Sharon tree that she cared for, a rose bush in the front of the house. This, she could make, I always said, roses out of the sand. But she was one of those people that if you needed something, she had it. But it also was the comfort that she gave you by having these things. My grandmother used to say, you want to have a tea? And we'd have tea. You know, she have everything there. It was always, and she was somebody, I think that you were talking when you said to Sharon before, Sarah, was that, she talked to children. She spoke to us, and I always, I was always grateful for that. And even for my mom and dad, if we sat around the table, at dinner time, we talked. My parents spoke to us, and I think that's a really an important thing.
Mhm.
And that happens.
Yeah, I agree. I think that conversation, obviously, regardless of it's a conversation like this that we're having, or whether it's a conversation we're having with our friends or a conversation that we're having with our children, I cannot express in words the importance of having conversation, especially like in this time, there's been lockdowns and people have been isolated over the last couple of years and whatnot. And, I think that Zoom has been a great gift. People can at least be connected to each other somehow, and the telephone. I mean,
Right.
It's just, I think that conversation is something that gives us not just our own voice, but gives an opportunity for people to say what's on their mind. Somebody who might not be a conversationalist, if you start a conversation and you hit on something that they love or they enjoy, they're going to join in. Yes.
Gives them opportunity.
Gives them, yeah.
Not have had other times, like you said, Teresa, sometimes people aren't, you and I have no trouble talking, but there are people that do, I've seen that in child, I worked in a school for many, many years, and you can see that difficulty for that child that just really has no way, not that they don't want to, but they don't know how to express themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of children can't do that. And it's always that loving hand of somebody, be it a teacher, be it an aide, be it the nurse's office, be it somebody that says to them, hey, how you doing? What's the matter, buddy? You got something on your mind? It brings it open to a child. I know at one point I was working in a different building, and somebody who happened to be employed there said, why are you being so nice to this kid? Why are you being so, not some kids always want to be a little rough around the edges, but I said, because I don't know, and you don't know what kind of night that child had. You don't know what that child had in his home. We don't know. So if the first person that sees in the morning says, hey, how you doing, buddy? Then that's a good thing. Yes. That child will have a better day because of that.
Yes.
That's how I feel.
You worked in the schools, right? You were a teacher?
No, I'm a medical assistant, and I work in the health office. I have a degree in community and human services, and I have another degree in history. And but my time in the health office was some of the best, because we worked, as I said, with social workers. Then we had to work with guidance. I was on I had a mentoring program. I was on a committee with parents and teachers and faculty and students. It was a very terrific thing. I had a wonderful building principal. And we really kind of embraced everybody on a different level. Each level that the child was on, or that, they'd have the banana splits for the kids that were going through a divorce. Children, then they had an extra group where children that were being bullied, because they really didn't understand bullying at that point, in their lives. Why is this happening to me? So, and there's always, there's comfort, there's safety in numbers. There's comfort if you hear somebody else saying, I feel the same way. I wasn't sure why is this happening? And then they have a moderator or somebody that can explain things to them in a better way. So I found that very, very, that's an education in itself, working with children.
What I heard you say more than anything else in all of these scenarios is you meet the children where they are. Like Absolutely. You meet them where they are, and you provide for them whatever comfort you can, no matter what situation they're going through. Now, your next book that is almost ready is Miss Abby Crabby, and she is a bully. Show us her, lift her up so we can see the whole thing of Miss Abby Crabby. There we go.
And in our lifetimes, we've all met Miss Abby Crabby. She didn't have to look like this, but we've all met her. And she's, she's full of herself, very loud, very boisterous, because she doesn't see anything else but herself. And I used birds in this particular one because that's also very non-threatening. And we're talking about a threatening situation with bullying. So that kind of tones it down just a bit. And so she's there and she's so full of herself. And I love the characters that I put in there for her, which is Billy Birdseed and Kathy Canary and Sally Sparrow and Officer Whalen and Police Bird Pryor. And they all have their job. And the one thing that I love about this is that this is about bullying. It's about forgiveness. It's about redemption. And it's about friendship.
Yes.
And about, having to, in order to have friends, you have to be a friend.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that is what Crabby learns. And by also being embraced by a community, also being embraced, whether it's your church, whether it's your school, whether it's your family, whether it's a combination of all those things, the child is embraced, the person is embraced, they're not alone. However they're feeling is no longer by themselves.
Exactly. And I wanted to hold on to that thought because we're going to have to take a break. But when we come back, I want to talk about the difference between confidence and obstinance, because Miss Abby Crabby is definitely an obstinate character. So with that, we're going to take our break. We'll be back on Dream Vision 7 Radio Network.
Darkest hours to brightest moments, transformation from despair to happiness, and chaos to clarity. Real people, real pain, real healing. Life-threatening illness, death, abusive relationships, divorce, and overcoming addiction are challenges these men and women faced head-on. See how they emerged stronger and happier. Buy the new book, Chaos to Clarity, Sacred Stories of Transformational Change by Reverend Patricia Caginello and Kathleen O'Keefe Canavas. Available on sacredstoriespublishing.com and worldwide through Amazon and other retailers.
In a world facing annihilation, a miraculous African nun rises to become the first female pope through a web of war, murder, and betrayal. Loved by some, hated by many, she becomes the deadly target of Islamic terrorists and her own cardinals as she introduces a new vision that will either save humanity or accelerate its destruction. 4 people must race against a nuclear holocaust to learn her astonishing secret. Pope Annalisa is available at petercanova.com, Amazon, and other online booksellers and bookstores worldwide.
Did you know that every word you speak matters? What you say and how you say it can make or break a relationship or shift the outcome of any situation. Are your conversations making a difference? Faith in God, gratitude, authenticity, and giving are Teresa Velardi's heart. It's in this spirit that she's focused on making a difference in the lives she's blessed to touch. Conversations That Make a Difference is now on syndicated Dream Vision 7 Radio Network every Tuesday at 5 a.m. and 5 p.m. Eastern Time, with live call-in shows every first and third Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern.
Why are we here? How can we be happy? Questions asked from millennials to boomers. Crappy to happy. Sacred Stories of Transformational Joy answers them using true stories of grit, grace, and love. James Redfield, author of The Celestine Prophecy, wrote in the foreword, "This book is a seminar about emerging truths and offers grounded solutions through the art of the comeback." Dr. Bernie Siegel, a contributing author, wrote, "Bodies die, but spirits and consciousness survive and recycle." So, grab some tissues, open your book, and prepare to cry and laugh till it heals. Crappy to Happy by Reverend Ariel Patricia and Kathleen O'Keefe Canavas. Available from Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and booksellers worldwide.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.
We're back with Melanie Francis, and we're discussing Poop Shoes and her upcoming book, Miss Abby Crabby, And then there's another one after that called Just Janine, which we'll maybe touch on before our time is up. But I wanted to give some time to talk about the difference between confidence and obstinance. Now, obstinance is defined as stubbornly refusing to change one's opinion or chosen course of action, despite attempts to persuade one to do so. How does Miss Abby Crabby, does she fit that definition in part of this story? Yes?
Absolutely. That's her vision is so narrow because it's herself. She has already built up this wall. We don't know why she's built up this wall, but she's got it, and she's just into herself. She's never going, it's all about her.
Mm-hmm.
Why she's this way, we don't know. But, whatever happens, she is this way. She's very, very full of herself. And her disregard for others and for others' feelings is what is a challenge for everybody around her,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what happens. And she has to learn, and she learns through this very humble person who everybody reveres and is very, very, a kind person,
Right.
kind little Sally Sparrow, but for Abby, when her feelings get hurt, instead of saying, "Oh, taking a seat back," or just trying to absorb it, she's going to react right away.
Yeah.
She's going to go for the jugular every time,
Yes.
And, when her initial meeting with, because she always ignores Sally Sparrow, but her initial meeting with her, when Sally's just asking her a simple question, "Oh, did I miss everybody flying home?" And she just zooms into her. She's upset, she's angry. So she doesn't, just look at me, I'm beautiful. I have all these feathers and this wonderful hat, and you're just an ugly little gray sparrow.
Oh.
And what happens in that too is she goes on, she hasn't changed, but Sally Sparrow, when she goes back, says, which many children do in this type of situation where there's bullying, does everybody feel this way about me? Maybe people don't really like me. And she starts to withdraw within herself. And it is through the efforts of Officer Whalen. And then he goes eventually and he tells everybody that finally Miss Abby Crabby really gets met head on, not by one little sparrow, but by the community of the birds around her who say, when she goes, "Well, who invited that little ugly little sparrow?" And they say, "We all did."
Mm-hmm.
And immediately at that moment, she has to take a step back, and say, well, even though she's still insulted, and then she, of course, gets the gum stuck in her beak by the little baby birds that were on her.
I love that part. Shut her right up, didn't they?
Every dog has their day, or every bird. But, it's what ensues after it too. And she's going around yelling at everybody. And everybody's so mean to her. And when they hear her down south, where they're going, because it starts off in the spring when they come home, and now it's the fall and they're going back down south, for the winter, and they hear her with the big loud voice that she has, and they send the homing pigeon to her saying, "Please don't come, just stay there where you are." And she realizes, as most bullies do at some point, when they're confronted and they're ignored, well, I have to change. I think it's just, maybe it's me, so maybe I better find out and change.
Yeah. So let's look at the definition of a confidence. There's several different ones of them, but I want to use this one because I think this really speaks to Sally Sparrow, a feeling of self-assurance arising from one's appreciation of one's own abilities or qualities. I think that in that particular book, just like Katie in this book, those two characters really step into their own in terms of being more self-assured, more appreciating their own abilities. Katie gets great satisfaction out of changing her poop shoes to a little garden with the help of Miss Caroline. So I think this story this story really lends itself to building confidence. And I think the interchange and the friendship that develops between Miss Abby Crabby and Sally Sparrow really helps Sally to step into her own, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Because when she takes her under her wing, excuse the pun, but when she does, she says to her later when she says, I'm so sorry I was the way that I was, basically, that I'm paraphrasing there. And she said, I forgave you a long time ago. Because when she forgave her, that enriched her to become the person she needed to be too. So it works in both ways. And for them together, it gelled together because, like you said, it gave her the confidence to say, you know what, let me uplift myself and let me do something higher. And she did,
Right. Exactly. So make sure you watch for Miss Abby Crabby. She will be available on Amazon, hopefully before the end of the month. And her cover looks just like this. There she is in all her glory.
Yes, that's her.
There she is in all her glory.
There she is, and I come to love her. Yes.
Yeah. So I love the synopsis you give of this book. She thought she was the big boss of everything. She wore a big hat and had an even bigger mouth.
And that's
this reminds me of so many people in my life.
Absolutely. And that's just what a little kid would say,
Yeah. She was loud, bossy, and said mean, hurtful things. And when she was cruel to Miss Sally Sparrow, the birds living in the trees surrounding the lake decided that she had gone too far. So absolutely read the story of Miss Abby Crabby and Poop Shoes with Katie. So Melanie, talk about what's going on in terms of I don't know much about Just Janine. So maybe you want to give us, this will follow Miss Abby Crabby.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
Just Janine is also, it's so funny. That's my sister's name. And I wrote the story years ago. And what I did was, also in my, one of the things I remember when my sister, here, I have this, when my sister was a little girl, she has the green eyes like this.
Hold it up.
If you can see here,
yes,
her bangs are all crooked.
Yeah.
My mother got distracted and cut it. And there was, she had this, and what I did was I took that whole incident and I put it into a story about a child, a little girl, just Janine, who has suddenly a new brother in the house, a little baby. And what happens with that is, the grandparents are over, everybody's, oh, look at the little baby, and they're all cooing over, and oh, and he's so wonderful. And a noise happens, something drops or something. And the grandmother says, or the grandfather, they say, what was that? And the mother goes, oh, it's just Janine. And she goes, oh my good, that's the day I became just Janine. And she feels like she's going to get left, she gets left out of everything. And one day, he's the big king now. She was, what happened to me? And what, they go to the circus. The mom takes her and dad, they take her to a surprise, and the baby to the circus, where she gets lost at the circus. And Larry, the lost kids clap, and he's big, and he's got this big high hair. It's all different colors, and he's got the big police. He takes it off, and he's just huge, and he's got balloons, and he finds her. And he's got a whistle, and she gets to see the clowns coming out of the clown's car, and they holding her up. And her parents see her, that they've got her, and they run to her, and they're hugging her, and she realizes they love me too. There's enough love in these people.
Yeah.
For both of us.
Yes.
And I guess I even might have liked him too, but it's great. The illustrations are great.
That's such a great point because, a lot of times we think that, I had somebody in my life who was always wondering, like when I spend time with other people, or I had relationships with this friend or that friend or whatever, there was one person in my life who always thought there wasn't enough love to go around, and what you just said reminds me, and I want to use that as a reminder that regardless of who you are, who you have in your world, there is more than enough love to go around. And if you have love in your heart, you will attract love from other people. If you make people wrong, you're going to repel them. Just like Miss Abby Crabby did. you know, so it's all, yeah, there's great lessons in these books. I want to give a minute to, before we go back to your conversation, I want to go back, give a minute to Jeria Arthur, who wasn't able to join us today. This young woman has so many things going on in her world. She is a professional women's football player, and her network, and she's this beautiful girl. I mean, you look at these girls that are just like, you know, they're on the field and they're playing football and they're tackling and they're running it out. I mean, this girl is fast. But she wrote a story about girls play football too, and this is about confidence as well. Her two children, Jayah and Jayce, are the main characters, and they're basically telling the story of how this little girl not only can play football, but she can show the boys that she can play just as good, if not better than them. I won't spoil the story, but there's a series of those books coming. And Jeria lives in Conyers, Georgia, and her children, Jayah and Jayce, are the children in the book. She has ACEquarters, where her brand Ace Athletics is housed, and where she trains clients to live healthier lifestyles and athletes to perform at their highest level. And she certainly does. And her children are athletes. My goodness, that little guy can run. I mean, I can see the NFL tracking him now for his future, because he is one fast little boy. But, you know, the confidence building that goes on in these stories is just so important to me and so important to the children of today. And although we'll have her on when her next book comes out, I just wanted to give a minute to Jeria because she got called to something and she really wanted to be here. So I just wanted to give her a minute about her book as well. But yeah, so Melanie, we are looking forward to Miss Abby Crabby and Just Janine. And anything you want to say about how people can get in touch with you and hear more about what's happening in your writing world?
Well, I'm going to start. I don't have it yet, but I am going to open a website so I can have all this information on there. If anybody wants to get in touch with me now, they can contact me at Mel's Bells 128 at optonline.net.
Great. And that would be the easiest way. Or you can contact me and I can pass anything along to, I can pass anything along to you as well. So, and of course, people can find me at Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, Conversations That Make a Difference, right on my page. Or you can go to teresavelardi.com, or teresavelardi@gmail.com is my email. And I'm happy to get any messages to any of our guests that touch your heart, who you would like to speak to. So we only have a minute left, and I just want to say thank you to you, Melanie. Thank you, Sarah, for joining me. I look forward to all that is ahead. The Christmas season is upon us, so use the links in the chat and YouTube to get your books, your copies of the books that we showcased today. And if you want to see them all, you can go to bookendeavors.com. All the children's books are there for you to look at. These make great holiday gifts, and I'm excited for the next time around. With next week, we have 3 authors who have written ABC books. So we're going to talk about the ABCs of children's books. And on that note, I want to say thank you to everyone for joining me. Come back again next time. We have on December 7th, we will have Dr. Melvin Wolk. We will have Jane McCarter-Carpenegro and Kenyatta Obi showcasing their books, their ABC books. Thank you once again for joining me on Dream Vision 7 Radio Network. We'll see you again next time.
Thank you.
Tune in next time for Conversations That Make a Difference with host Teresa Velardi every Tuesday at 5 a.m. and 5 p.m. Eastern, with live call-in shows every first and third Tuesday on syndicated Dream Vision 7 Radio Network. Thank you for listening, and thank you to our producer Rachel and to our station owner Deborah Beauvais, working behind the scenes. Be sure to go to conversationsthatmakeadifference.com for your free gift. Make sure your conversations make a difference.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy.